Hi everyone, this is your favorite film critic Jay or Jaylan Salah as you formerly know her. I'm happy today to bring another guest, one of my favorite cinephile friends and podcasters to the pod to talk on the J days about movies that we all care about and are interested in. I started this list, as you must all know, and I will put it in the letter box in the description to tell people if they're interested in talking about movies that I find less talked about and semi-obscure. So I asked many of my friends, and one of them was this amazing podcaster in front of you right now, whom I will introduce to you in a minute. A pragmatist first, movie connoisseur second, Darin Lundberg is the co-host of the NostalgiaCast and Back to Bluey podcast. He discusses his lifelong love of film, love of family, and parenting as a bi-weekly basis. But Darin is not only a podcaster, he is someone who, if you follow him on Twitter, you know exactly. He has an opinion. He knows how to talk about films. He talks about specific things in films, especially the difference between how we, our generation, and the generations before appreciate films, and how the younger generations have lost the art of appreciating films. And when I reached out with the list for him, he picked two films that are really close to my heart, but also what a pick. So let me start by saying, Darin, so happy to have you here.
So happy to be here. Like we were saying, I'm nervous because you have a whole list of conversations with people that I'm just in awe of. And I know you were on for a NostalgiaCast episode of The Fugitive, which is a real treat for me. And that's a conversation that I'm going to treasure for a long, long time. I appreciate all those kind words you're saying about me, but that's something that I try to pride myself on. I want to be able to talk about what these movies mean, not just from a perspective of, oh, that was cool, haha, that kind of thing, like what they mean and how they, the language that they use and how they tell stories visually or with words or no words, that kind of thing. And so that's, yeah, you're right too, the way that people watch movies today is so different from the way that you and I watch movies. I know we talked about that quite a bit during our Fugitive episode, where people are just have these weird expectations of movies, and so they just think of them as these quick, like, trivial things and don't really dive into them, or why they're why the language of the movie is making them feel a certain way. And I think that's an important part of the conversation that nobody or hardly anybody ever has anymore. So again, I really appreciate you as a cinephile that we can talk about these things in such a grand way.
Speaking of lesser dialogue or silent moments in film, you picked two films that made me have an even more appreciation for you because A
Oh.
Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, Anna Lily Amirpour, and then you have The Piano, Jane Campion. Two films, two female auteurs, two women who created very strong, but also very sensitive and complex female characters.
Mm.
I want to ask you, why did you pick? Because I'm so happy to be on your pod to talk about The Fugitive because it's one of my favorite, my childhood staples. But I'm
Yeah.
happy that you are here to talk about films that I adore. So I'm to ask you, why did you pick these two films in specific?
Well, first of all, your list was just full of like great choices, so there wasn't like a shortage of things to pick from. But I just think it's really fascinating because you and I have had conversations about like other female directed movies. Like Birds of Prey is one that I'm really disappointed in the reaction to, because when I watched it, I just felt like, yeah, this isn't the regular dude's comic book movie. This feels like a voice and it's told from a different perspective. And it just reminded me that there are different voices in films. It's not just the white dude's perspective, which I gravitate towards that, but I don't want something parroted back at me that I already know. I want to hear new things and experience new ways of looking at life. And so obviously a female perspective is much different, and I welcome that because I'm open to new ways of I don't know, Jay. I just don't want to closet myself at one particular way of storytelling because it's so boring. I want to be able to walk in somebody else's shoes or see through their their eyes for a couple hours and just get a different, I don't know, kind of experience from that. And so that's, again, The Piano is one that's been around since my college days, and then I always wanted to watch A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. It's the poster has just always been so, oh, I need to watch that. And it didn't occur to me that it was a woman directing. I just wanted to see it like a vampire movie, right? And then you find out, oh, it's a different perspective than we usually get. So yeah, like, let's watch that. And so just having that on your list, I thought it was an interesting kind of duo, because obviously I wanted to watch it, but then it's like, well, there's no time like the present to be able to kind of watch this movie along with another movie I'm familiar with.
Okay. what is your earliest memory of watching The Piano? Because for me, The Piano is a film that I think I memorized by heart. Like it's part
Mm.
of me, part of my DNA. A Girl Walks Home at Night is a totally different experience for me. So I want to ask you first, starting but with The Piano, which is a masterpiece of sorts in all kinds of elements. But I want to ask you first, your earliest memory of watching it, when it hits you deep, and why do you think it's such an important film to watch?
Well, so I have two core memories of the piano. Is number one, my best friend growing up, Jenny. She for some reason had seen it before me, and I knew it was on the award circuit. What was this the year that Schindler's List and The Fugitive came out, and so it was on the awards kind of watch. And somehow she'd seen it before me, which is weird because she didn't usually watch R-rated movies. And the way she described it to me was like she didn't like it at all. I just think she wasn't ready maybe for that kind of language yet because she was at what, like, we were teenagers, so we're 16, 17 when that movie came out. And so the way she described it, and she's, oh, and he cuts her finger off, and I was like, what? Like like I didn't get it either because I'm seeing it through her perspective, right? But again,
Yes.
it ended up winning like Oscars and things like that, screenplay, Holly Hunter, Anna Paquin. And then in college, when I was studying to be a film critic, that was on the itinerary. And so what you would do is you would show up to classes, they'd teach you about the cinematography, editing, that stuff. But then they'd also show like have repertory screenings like once a week that would like be the like encompass what we were learning about that week. And the piano was one of them. So I was like, yeah, this is, I'm kind of in a mood because when you start attending college courses on film studies, your brain gets out of the loop of watching like blockbusters and things like that. You start looking for smarter movies with new voices.
Exactly. Mhm.
So when I sat and watched it, it's one of those movies that I knew it was something special, even though I didn't understand it. Because again, it was a different language. And when you're what I was in my 20s by that time, I guess I wasn't
Yes.
ready for this kind of storytelling. But at the end, when she almost drowns, I hope people have seen the movie when she almost drowns by choice, like by suicide with the piano, and then decides to not do that and to live. I just thought, wow, what a powerful message about because water and being birthed, it's like being birthed from water, being reborn. And it's a something in film language that's very primal, and it's in all sorts of movies, not just here. But I
Agree.
just thought it was such a powerful primal storytelling choice to show her reborn. And as soon as that happened, I thought, ooh, I think this movie is, it had a spell over me. And at that point I was like, I need to watch this again because it seemed like a movie that the more you watch it, the more you're able to hear it, which is again kind of weird saying about a mute, that can't speak. But I I've watched it. I think this is my fourth time watching it, and every time I pick up on new things. And there's so much to chew on in this movie. And it sounds bad me saying this, Jay, but like that a woman can direct a movie like this and just be as strong a voice as any male director. I think it's just sad that we don't have more females getting the opportunity to make a movie like this. And
Yes, an epic.
this is a strange movie. This is like nothing you've ever seen
No,
before. Uh,
exactly.
I guess there's like a little bit of Wuthering Heights in here that kind of plays into the story a little
And
bit.
it was
But
an
as
inspiration for
yeah,
writing the movie. So yeah, totally
right,
you make sense. But then,
right, right. And it's just like I said, it's something that was a new experience. And my favorite kind of movie, Jay, is one where I walk in one person and I walk out a completely different person, aware of different things. And I, again, not trying to talk hyperbole or anything, but this is one of those movies that I my definition of a masterpiece is something that you can go back to, and every time you've aged into it a little bit more. And so there are different, yeah, there's just so much to dive into in this movie. It's so many facets in this thing, and it's just a spellbinding experience for me.
I feel like choosing to make Holy Hunter Ada mute is good for me because first of all, I can't stand the Holy Hunter's voice. I feel like he would
Yeah,
have ruined. Seriously,
yeah.
this movie is just so layered and all the voices together create this harmony. I feel like Holy Hunter's voice was one of the things that you either love or hate, and it would
It's a
always
comedy voice. Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
right.
So imagine she was just narrating in the beginning and then she says the epilogue. So that's about it. It's not supposed to be what you hear from Ada. What you're supposed to be hearing from Ada is her music. And I think
Mm-hmm.
the idea of tying music or art to
Mm-hmm.
someone's psyche or identity like that, I think this is so scary. And I don't think it's it's very hard to put that on film. So
Yeah.
how do you think Jane Campion succeeds in doing this, creating music or the piano itself as a character on the same level as Ada, and at the same time making it her voice, which is I think is very odd when you think about it conceptually.
Yeah. Well, again, movies aren't just visual; they're oral as well. And I love movies that really dive into that and have like a melding of both. I just find stories fascinating about these like these older times where a character's sexuality, they don't know how to deal with, like back in the Victorian times or whatever, the women had to repress all of this stuff. That's, corsets and everything. So it's all, this is a movie that kind of ties, not kind of, it really ties into that, about the repression of sexuality and how it's played out is it's a little perverse, like if we're being honest, the way that it happens in here. But that's because they're so primal with it, I'm going to keep using that word, that they are animalistic with it, that's just how they
Very.
deal with it. Nobody knows. And I just find that kind of story fascinating, that these repressed feelings that everybody, even in something like The Age of Innocence, which is a PG rated movie, that's still about the repression of feelings.
Yes,
But
and
that's more from
sexuality.
a male perspective, right? I just think that having this, and again, the way that Campion directs, we'll probably talk about this, but it's not about the sex, right? It's not about the penetration. It's about the touch and the feeling and the drawing out of things, which a male director will shy away from that. They'll go right to it, right to wham bam, thank you, ma'am kind of stuff. But a woman will concentrate on this more sensual, and I think that's what makes this movie so. When you watch it as a 17-year-old, I guess you're not ready to have your world opened up like
No.
that.
Yeah, exactly. Totally makes sense.
Right. So, yeah, I just think that's a storytelling trope that's not really, like I said, they've used it in Victorian times and countless stories, but they don't really dive into it in an explicit way, an explicit and freeing way like this movie does. But that's what I mean. It's like it kind of opens your mind to, oh, like it's not just feelings, it's actually about physical contact, and it's all about the, yeah, as
The
a
bodies
connection.
and the expression,
Yes,
exactly. And I feel
exactly.
like it's the piano itself and the way she plays and the different music pieces that she plays and actually reflecting her state of mind and her state of arousal. So when you
Mhm.
get to the parts when she's being seduced by Harvey Keitel, or when he is perversely making her seduce him in a very kinky ways of
Yeah.
expressing sexuality, the music changes and you could tell that it's more layered. And I have to give credit to Michael Nyman for creating a
Oh,
masterpiece of a
yeah.
score. I don't think it's unmatched because what a score. This is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
You can't escape it. I think the first time I ever heard The Heart Asks Pleasure first was even before I watched the piano. And I think I realized, wait a minute, I can't believe this music exists. How can this piano piece exist? And this is why I started looking for the piano. And this is why I fell in love with the piano. But
Wow.
seriously, that score is just, I don't know, it's very haunting
Right.
as well.
Yeah, I've got The Heart Asks Pleasure First on my phone. It's actually one of the score selections I have that I listen to. Um, I also think the way that she plays the piano, that's her voice, right? That's her way of
Yes.
speaking. And so even Alistair's aunt, she talks about the way that Ada plays the piano, like it's weird, like it's little. She's like, why is she playing it like that? And I think it's just, again, the woman's place is to just play the piano like as parlor entertainment. That's really all it is. Like, oh, play us a song, dear, and they'll do that. But the way Ada plays that song, there's something about that it's the passion and the feeling. Like she's expressing herself through her music. And again, the aunt who's kind of like buttoned up in that Victorian era, she's like, oh, this is weird. Like, what is she doing? Like, she shouldn't be doing that. But again, that's the whole point of this movie, is that she's got a voice that will not be silenced. And that's just something that's really powerful as a storytelling tool.
What I think of the performances, because I feel like the performances are just exquisite, even down to the Maori, cast. Everyone
Yeah.
is great in that role. So, what do you think of the performance? Tell me more.
Well, like you talked about, like Holly Hunter. I love Holly Hunter, but you're right. Like I just think of Turn to the Right, from Raising Arizona. I love her in that, and I love her in The Incredibles. And she's got a very identifiable voice. And so putting her, I don't know, it just would have seemed out of place. And again, no shade against Holly Hunter because I do like her voice, but it would have seemed out of place for this particular story. And like you talked about, like and at the end, she has the epilogue when she quotes Thomas Hood or whatever about the cold grave under the deep, deep sea. When she says that, her voice is haunting. But I think that's just because we've gotten used to her over the course of the movie. But the way that she is so buttoned up and the way that she's so closed off, and that goes to her voice, like she can't speak or she chooses not to speak, right? Because
Yes.
it's, I don't know how you feel in movies. I feel like dialogue is a crux. It's a way to get people, explain things to people, where a good director will be able to do that visually instead of having a character say, oh, we're going down to the store now. A director will find a way just to say, oh, they're at the store. So I think dialogue is a kind of a cheat in a lot of ways. So taking that away from her and again having her voice be the piano, I think is again a very powerful narrative tool. So yeah, I love her in this. I love the fits that she throws. Like when it turns out that Baines is buying the piano and she's like stomping and ripping the clothes down,
Exactly.
and even Stuart Alistair is just watching her. He's not really mad that she's doing that. He gets mad again that she is defying him so much. I think this is a movie about control in a lot of ways and ownership and
Yeah.
possession, which doesn't just come down to Stuart owning Ada or Baines owning Ada. It also comes down to the way that Stuart has come and basically colonized New Zealand, right? So the Maori women are basically wearing Victorian clothes and they're singing the New Zealand anthem, I believe, as they're sewing. And so it's all about colonization too, as far as possession goes. But it's all of that I'm talking about. I feel like it's basically dramatized to the way that that Ada can't speak. And it's about something like, I can't get this out. Like I feel so, I don't know, exploited or restrained, and I've got to get it out. And so the way she does it with me, I just think that's really great. Um, it's weird seeing Sam Neill in this the same year that he was in Jurassic Park.
Who would have
Because
thought? Exactly.
it,
Very brave of him.
yeah, it's so different, and he's such I don't know how to explain it. I feel so bad for him
Yeah, this
at
poor
first
character
anyway.
still, I mean, yeah, you could
Right,
tell.
because it's a wife. Like the first thing you see is him staring at her picture, like he's infatuated with her already, and the fact that she won't be physical with him because, and he doesn't start off on the right foot. You know what I mean? He leaves her piano. He leaves her. He doesn't care about her enough to
And
take
he
the
looks at her
piano.
like she's an alien. I feel like, yeah, when he was watching the photo, I think he anticipated something else other than the reality that
A
hit him,
mute,
which is why when he was
right?
like, oh my God, wait, I didn't expect her to be this short or this stunted. He was even talking
Yeah,
to Baines in the first scene. So I was like, oh my God, he kind of got, but then he still wanted to make it, make amends, but he didn't get her. It was so, you could tell the chemistry between these two is just so off. These are two
yeah,
people who shouldn't be married ever. So it was just
right.
fascinating to watch him play a complex role like that.
Yeah, he's also very closed off. You know what I mean? Like he expects her to do certain things or behave a certain way, and he gets that right from when. I'm not sure if he just doesn't care or he's doing something. He leaves the piano on purpose to kind of shove it at her. You know what I mean? Basically say that I'm the man and you're going to do it. I'm not sure if that's what he's doing. He does says that later, obviously, but I'm not sure if he purposely does that. But like I said, he starts off on the wrong foot. He's such a coward. There's literally the part, I thought it was kind of a bastardization when they're playing the Michael Nyman score, and he's literally trying to assault her in the forest.
Yes, which is
And then
just
again,
awful. Yeah,
yeah, later after he freaking cuts off her finger and basically literally silences her, like takes away
exactly.
what is her
I
voice,
clipped your
right?
wing. This is the name of
Oh
that
my
music
gosh.
piece, which is just heartbreaking to hear every
Yeah.
time.
And he's talking to her like, "Oh, you'll forgive me for this." It's like, dude, you cut off her finger, man. Like you took, and Holly Hunt so powerful in that part. Sorry, I'm all over the place. But when she gets that
This
cut off,
scene is
it's
just,
not just about the physical pain anymore. It's about the emotional. He's taken something from her.
it's like someone took her away. The way she just stares when she's holding her bleeding hand, and it's like she's dying, she's dead. And the way I love when an actor does with their body what sometimes words cannot express, like the way she falls, even, and you could tell like her dress is getting, inflated with water and mud. It's like this woman, she feels like someone kind of like inserted their hand inside her and took away her core, something inside
Yeah.
her that would never be redeemed. And yet she redeems it. And yet, I think one of the things that I love is that she chooses to survive. despite, because I hate romanticizing the idea of the dead writer, the dead poet, the dead artist, especially female artists. Like, yeah, let's watch her die because she loves her art so much and she can't get rid of it. No, she actually found the man she loves and she wants to start new, even if this means that she no longer needs to express herself through art. Because
Yeah.
art is a very scary thing, even the way Jane Campion depicts it here. It's not just the sex that is scary, but art itself is scary. How it sometimes has that grip on your throat and it kind of manipulates you to even destroy yourself, seeking something, maybe the sound, the feeling, the expression that that you don't know how to reach. So I love that
Mm.
she chooses herself, despite reading that actually Jane Campion wanted her to die
Yeah.
with the piano. But I thought, like, no, no, no. What you did was right. Good job for you.
Right. Well, that goes to the fact of it is refreshing that she doesn't get murdered by the oppression, right? She actually finds a way to, like he says, like my soul decided to live, right? And I was shocked by that. But again, I love that you talk about art is scary because we talked about this in the Fugitive episode, and I've talked to you
Yeah.
about this a lot before. Is you're such a great writer and such a great the way that you make everything so personal. That's the other thing, like I was talking about, not just watching the piano and seeing how a woman will tell the story, also the way that you write and you get an insight into why you're writing this or what you're trying to reconcile. And I feel like I know you because of the writing. That's something that's so rare. And that's again, I'm never going to stop telling you how much I appreciate that about you. But that's such a great thing to say about art and how you're expressing yourself. And also just to go back to the way that they make Ada mute, that goes right back to what I was saying about dialogue being a crutch. You don't get to have her say, how dare you cut off my finger, and now I'm repressed and I'm going to sink into the mud. In a way, Campion writes that character, writes Ada in a way that pigeonholes her into saying, okay, I can't just have this said with dialogue. It needs to be done with acting, with motions, and the way that Holly Hunter pulls off that part. And it's not, like I said, it's not so much about the physical pain, because yes, it hurts obviously, but when you see her just stare, not just at Alistair, but at us, right? And it's not just about the pain, it's about what you've taken from me. And that's where she just sinks into despair, and it's like the mud is swallowing her, the mud that has been like, when she tries to get back to the piano, we see her like walking in the mud, and it's hard for them to walk in those dresses, like her and Flora. When she tries to get back to Baines, again, it's mud. So now the mud has literally dragging her down. Again, that's all visual. And it's so rare these days to get visual stuff, when in a normal movie, somebody just would have said, oh, now I'm in despair and I'm literally sinking into the mud because of what you've done.
Exactly. Let me look for my piano.
Yeah, yeah. So
Oh,
again,
maybe I should go to Baines.
right. Exactly. Like it you have to watch for it, and that's something that I really appreciate. Skipping to Harvey Keitel, he's interesting because I never think of Harvey Keitel as a sex symbol, even though I guess he might have
No,
been in the
at
70s.
all. I don't think he's sexy. And I don't think even here it's not about him being a sexy actor, which is again a testament to her great casting choices. It's about him being just raw sexuality. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yes.
like animals in the forest.
Yeah.
This is what it is. All those men, like wearing their suits and getting all suited up, and even the way they express themselves or talk about desire is very stilted and very conservative and very kind of like hush hush. But it's not him. He just takes off his clothes and she discovers him naked in front of her, which I feel like, oh my God, it's like he is trying to bring out that animal from inside her.
Mhm.
Yes, that animal is alive when she's creating, but when he's with her and he realizes this is what she wants, despite all the
Mhm.
restrictions and the corsets and the crap, he just okay, I'll undress for you, baby. So I just like this so much. The fact that he's actually not a sexy guy or a sexy actor, but he can represent this madness, I mean, like this guy
Yeah.
you see in the like he is that actor who could convince you that he's in the force. Unlike now when you see period pieces and all these actresses with Botox and all these men who have had things done to their faces, and you're like, dude, you can't exist in the past. Stop
Yeah.
fooling us. So
Right.
I just love
Perfect
that she
teeth.
picked it. Exactly.
Yeah, as a heterosexual married man, like when he takes off his clothes and he's like just walking around, even I was like, oh yeah, take me away. You know what I mean? It's like there's that
Hey, Harvey.
animalistic.
Yes.
You're
Exactly. It's his
you're getting it
power.
from, yeah, her Ada's POV, right? And so you're like, oh yeah, like I can understand why she's attracted to this. Because again, he's giving her a physical way of like presenting herself and
Yes.
being herself. It's not just about again, the only way she can talk is by playing that piano. And so the way that and like I was saying, it draws it out. So it's not just their first meeting, they're automatically doing it, right? And you say
Yeah.
kinky,
It takes
which
time.
right. You say kinky, which is funny because when he sees the hole in her stocking and he just feels that, I'm like, that's not, I don't think that would be kinky today. It's just, you know what I mean? Because everybody has holes in their
I
sock.
mean, exactly, exactly. You're right. This is why it's even, I think the idea that he is seeing her all layered and then he glimpses just this hole where he can finally see her skin. And I
Yeah.
feel like, God, you guys, you're just perfect. And I feel like also Alistair has always had this way of making her feel shameful about sex
Yeah.
with him, which is why she closed off in on herself. And then she sees this guy who is like, boom, naked. Come on. I'm actually cleaning the piano naked. So it's a whole different thing. So I just love the contrast and of course the casting choices because when you see Sam and then you see Harvey and the way they contrast each other, civilization and kind of like going out into the wild, it totally makes sense.
Yeah. Right. You get that great shot of her when she walks off. I think Bane sells the piano back or she gets the piano back. And then instead of being excited, she walks off and it's Stuart Alistair that has Flora play. And he's like, well, I don't understand this. Like I got the piano back and she's wandering off. And I think it shows him hitting like to the beat of what Flora's playing. And then it cuts to a shot of Ada from the back and it kind of goes like literally through the back of her head. And it's a shot of just like the untamed forest that we get that kind of gives you an insight into what she's feeling in her head. I hope I'm getting that right. Again, what I think is great about this movie is there's so many different interpretations that you can come up with. It's not just one, because again, you
But
don't
if
have one guy
all
telling
great
you.
all great artists. I feel like an art that just has one explanation and everyone agrees on everything. Dude, it's boring. No, thank you. Even when The Fugitive, we were actually having different opinions and different interpretations about the characters themselves and the dynamics
Yeah.
between them. So I feel like, yeah, of course, it's very layered and everyone has their own way of seeing the story and interacting with it.
Right. And again, you're talking about the hole in her stocking or when he says to take off your shirt. And it's all you can see is she got the corset on still, but you can see the small of her back. And I'm like, wow, how that's erotic because you're not,
How
you haven't
sexy.
seen any of her. And so seeing the back, like that's something that's whoa, like to, and today, obviously, you can see everybody's back, when they walk
Exactly. When
around.
you're watching Euphoria, everyone is naked. So yeah, who cares?
Yeah.
No one,
So it's different.
obviously.
And it's just great seeing it here and the way that, again, because he's so animalistic and she opens herself up to that. Again, the thing that I thought was sexy about this movie was the way that it happens in stages. It doesn't happen the first time. Like they move to a different level of intimacy, right? And again, it's still pretty perverse because he's basically blackmailing her to do
Exactly.
these
And she's
things.
enjoying, like, she's getting off on that. You know what I mean? Like, it's a
Yeah.
very weird situation where she wants to be, because we were having this discussion on an amazing episode of the Women in Session Film podcast about Baby
Ooh.
Girl, directed by Helena Rain, about
Yeah.
how she actually, this is the thing, she wants to be blackmailed. Like, she wants to be put in this dangerous position by him.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's not just about getting back her piano. No, she actually wants him to actually maybe force her or put her in that situation where she has to be forced to unleash that monster inside her. And I think this is
Mhm.
something very erotic and kinky. And I love this movie for it.
But what's great too is he's also very sentimental. Like he does get to the point like this is making me a bad person. It's making you a whore, right? I want you to want me because you want me. And so he does have that sincerity. He's not just an animal. And I
No.
love how that comes out in him as it comes out in Alistair, what an animal he is and what a controller he is. To
Under
the
that
point where,
fake
yeah,
facade
the
of
facade.
civilization and
Yeah.
being a more like higher person and civilized than all these tribes and stuff like that, which just makes you
Yeah.
want to vomit.
the way that he the way that he's so I love that shot again. I maybe you can answer this for me, Jay. Is the thing that confuses me is there's a point where she gets the piano back and then they start having and then he kind of tries to assault her in the forest and something. Does he find out about their affair? Because he all of a sudden says, don't you're not going to go back to him, right? I have to leave and go do this. You're not going to contact him, right? And she says, no, I won't. Had they did I miss a scene? Did they actually have a conversation where he told her that he found out, or is that just implied?
Just implied. And this is the
Okay.
beauty of it. Imagine now where it's like a conversation. Hey, I know about the affair. No, I'm not going to. So it's like, oh my God, redundant. They leave space. She leaves space for your mind, your imagination to put on the
Mhm.
scenarios. But now, of course, because Twitter Nation is lazy, everyone wants to have answers handed to them, spoon
Right.
fed to them, because they will have like lengthy threads talking about, hey guys, why didn't this movie say so and so and so? So it has to be explained. No, I don't think. I think there are a lot of things here that are missing or are
Right.
not explicitly said, but you start working your brain. Like maybe did she do this? Did he do that? And this was supposed to be what cinema was about before, of
Yeah.
course. Now I think it's very preserved and boring.
Well, you also talk about Twitter people. I mean, they're very prudish today, where a story like this would not be tolerated,
Of course
like
not.
about
Oh my
consent and
God.
everything. And
Exactly. And it will be like seen, I think, out of context and also, I mean, seen from a very shallow, one-dimensional point of view. You know what I mean? Like it has to be like a team or guys versus girls or and it will just be taken out of the story and the setting and the period piece it's telling. So
yeah,
yeah, it just feels so boring now analyzing films and talking about films while inserting things about people's views of the world itself, about the film.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still haven't seen the Emerald Fennel Wuthering Heights, but what I really liked was all the ads I saw for were really playing up the sexuality. And I just every time I saw an ad, I would laugh. So I'm like, oh yeah, bring it, bring it. You know what I mean? Because people aren't used to this. And then I think it was a pretty big hit for a little while because people wanted to see it. So
Yeah,
there
but
are people out there that do want this stuff, but
But
as
it's
a
at the
whole,
same
it's just
time,
so closed
trust
off.
me, exactly. The sex is very little, and actually, they have everything in the trailer. So when you go, it's actually
Oh,
downplayed.
wow.
Besides the way they play, like the dominant kind of like submissive kind of energy, it's really very uncomfortable and not healthy. Besides, I think one of the main things that I didn't like about it, although there were things that I liked about it, was the idea that they kind of like romanticized Heathcliff into this soft, like internet boyfriend kind of thing, which is not. You're supposed to
Yeah,
think, yeah, fuck you, Kathy. You just like a terrible person. No,
yeah.
because one of my friends whom I discussed the Wuthering Heights with, I have two great episodes coming up. She told me that girls were moaning in the movie theater. She was like, "Oh my God!" They were like, "Oh, baby, I love you." No, 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 no. This is not supposed to be because when you
Yeah,
see Harvey Keitel here, come on, let's be honest. I don't take me away, but don't be my boyfriend in real life. Thank you very
yeah.
much, you crazy man. But there in Wuthering Heights, she's like making I think the lines are blurred between Jacob Elordi, who is actually a manufactured brand persona for the actor, versus Heathcliff, who is this scary, toxic man who's an abuser in the novel. So everything is just wild and everything is just unhinged and everything is being, I think, commercialized to a very, very
Mm.
low level. Like I expected more from the movie, but I can't wait for you to watch the conversations that we had. We had two very interesting conversations on the J dates about
Well,
it.
that's cool that this kind of ties into that. I think that's really cool. I really like the again, it's very Wuthering Heights because it's like this untamed landscape and all the passion that's kind of all, and so I love that. I
And people with
love
intense
when
feelings, yes.
right, exactly. I love when even Flora doesn't understand what's going on. The note that I had is like, how perverse is it that they're making her play outside while they're doing these things
This poor
inside,
girl, I feel like, yes,
and
played.
they don't it's funny to me that they but again when you're taken away by your passions it's the last logic is the last thing you think about but it's funny to me that they don't even it doesn't even occur to them that she might peek into what they're doing and there's a little bit of atonement in that I guess where it's the young girl that's misconstruing what she's seeing
Little
um
girls and how they always tell tales and ruin
right
things.
so the way that she tells it's funny that Alistair doesn't get it because earlier when Flora's telling her they don't even she doesn't even play sometimes. You know what I mean? Like he never plays. She's Owen always playing. And it doesn't occur to him that's going on. But I love that there's one shot that's so striking to me is when he's basically told her, Stuart's told her, you're not going to contact Baines while I'm away, right? And then the instant he leaves, she gives Flora the piano key, take this to Baines. And all Flora knows is I don't want to take this. Like he said that you're not supposed to. And so she does and walks right by him and tells him what's going on. And there's this great, like a Dutch angle or a German expressionist type shot where you just see him in the upper corner, everything's slanted when he finds out her betrayal and just marches off with that axe. And I could not believe, as much as the note that I had later on when she's recovering in bed and he's trying to take his pants off, I was like, holy shit, are we really going? Because I didn't remember that part from the last time I saw it for some reason, because it had been a few years. But the
He
way that
sunk so low.
he did, right?
Yeah.
And the way that sinks even further than when he chops her finger off. Like, you don't think that's going, he can sink any lower than that. And then he does. Luckily, he stops himself. Because these days, Jay, I have a rule that I can't, if there's a rape scene in a movie, I'm gonna turn it off. I don't
Yeah, you have
want
to.
to watch
I know what
those.
you mean. Exactly. No, no, no. I think it's very unnecessary too, because there are many ways. First of all, why do we have to have the rape storyline? No, even if you want to talk about sexual assault, there are multiple ways to have it without actually having a rape scene that would let pervies all over the world enjoy and just, get the wrong,
Yeah.
especially when you were watching older movies, you're like, oh my God, people got away with a lot of shit. So, yeah,
Yeah, it's very exploitative, and that's the thing I don't like, because even if it's, again, a rape is a, it's a violent, perverse, disgusting, atrocious thing that you're taking something away from somebody. And
exactly.
as I'll watch those scenes and go, this is disgusting, but there's going to be one guy in a theater in the Midwest or
You
whatever
never
that's going to be
know. Exactly. They're
and
getting off
excited
those
by it.
things. Yeah, so
Yeah,
why are we having them? Especially now. I think maybe like in the past, first of all, everyone was a pervert. All the directors and everyone was
yeah,
awesome. And then you
yeah,
had like people like, oh yeah, we're ignorant. And then you have the Me Too movement. So I think now, really, guys?
yeah,
So yeah, just it's there is a very important way to talk about to have the sexual assault conversation and where it necessitates in the movie itself.
yeah,
But cinematography. Tell me what you think of the cinema. I feel like I've never seen the New Zealand beaches so beautiful, but also haunting. Like you could tell there are
yeah.
sirens and maybe mermaids that will come out of the water and pull those people in who are enchanted by music and sex.
Right. It's what, Stuart Dryburgh, right? Doing the cinematography. The Again, the untamed landscapes. That's a visual representation of their untamed or their closeted feelings. Trying to get, there's a storm. This is what it would be in a movie driven by dialogue, right? Me saying this, but there's a storm inside everybody that's trying to get out, and so having all these windswept beaches and everything's wet and everything's so damp and everything's so muddy, it's very dirty, but it also ties into that primal animalistic feeling. There's the part where Baines is talking with his Maori friends, and there's the one guy that's very like loose with the his sexual, and all that. So even the Maoris are very open, and I think that's why Baines has kind of adopted their lifestyle. It's like an animalistic, again, of nature kind of lifestyle. So I
Exactly.
don't know. I think there's, like I said, there's that German expression in the shot. There's when they're inside, it seems like there's very shadowy and everybody's kind of cut off from. But even when people go outside, it's still overcast. It seems like is there any sun in this movie? Maybe at the end when they're
And maybe at
escaping.
the end, exactly when they leave this
Yeah,
cursed place, you
yeah.
could tell. You could tell.
Right, right. And so I don't know. I just think every single visual choice in here, and I think Campion in an interview, I think, talked about how she wanted everything so damp, and you can't really understand what's going on from the dailies, right? Why is everything so wet all the time? But it's like, you got to trust me that this all ties in visually with what the movie's doing. Again, a lot of very striking shots. Yeah, it's just the way he captures faces, like just Anna Paquin's face. Like, she's so young here, but she's so knowing. And I know the joke is like, oh, why did they give her the Oscar? But it's like there's something unearthly or unworldly about her performance in
I
here, where
actually like her
she's
performance so much. I think
yeah,
it's
yeah,
great.
yeah. I'm not.
I
I'm
don't
not saying
know
that it's. I love it. I love it. I'm just saying
who
that
is against her supporting so that people would
yeah,
feel bad. Like, were there
right.
important names?
I don't. It's just I remember the backlash when she won back in '93. It's like, why are they giving this to her? But it's like
Why? She's actually
you,
very good in that role. And she
she's
was
very
weird. She's like, you
yeah,
could tell this is the offspring of Ada. Like, you could tell this is Ada's daughter. She actually
right.
mimics her mother's mannerisms a
Yes,
lot. And the way she's acting at her mother's voice sometimes, it's just, it's brilliant.
yeah. I think that. that's also good cinematography there. I think again, Campion talks about how the writing is different from filmmaking because now you can bring a whole different level to it. And the way she has people mirroring each other, even from the beginning when you see Alistair on the beach and there's a Maori like behind him, and the way he's moving his head, the Maori's moving it the same way. And I thought
Isn't
that's
it
interesting.
brilliant? Exactly. Like, why would she do this? It's like a lot of people are mirroring each other in this film in ways that might go unnoticed. But then when you look closer and when you rewatch the film, you discover
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah, you mentioned how Ada and Flora are mimicking each other, like the way they tilt their heads, like they're so. And what even when she finds them kissing or whatever, when she peeks in and then she's with the other Maori boys like kissing the trees and stuff like that, that's mirroring, right? And I love the way that it's the mirroring brings a closeness to each other like a bond, but then they separate later. So
Yeah.
when Flora doesn't understand what's going on and she has to bring Baines the finger and she ends up staying with him, like they've separated,
That
right?
scene is actually perfect. The way when
Yeah.
she brings, the way even this kid has been, like she just wants to expose everything and she's angry at her mom and stuff. But when this happens to her mother, and the way I think she trusts Alistair in the beginning. I don't think she hates him. But then she realizes that he's capable of something to a kid that is horrible. This man is cutting her mother's fingers and he's actually threatening and telling her things that, oh my God, it makes you hate him immediately. So
That no
this is
dad should
why
do. Yeah.
she just loses it and she just breaks into this scared little girl. And I just love that because she had a lot of growing to do, sadly. Like you could
Mm-hmm.
tell she had to grow up for her mother. Like she had to grow beyond her age sometimes because she's her mother's voice. And this is a very weird circumstances for a kid to grow up in. But in that scene, she's just a child, scared and wanting adults to reassure her, like, what the fuck is going on? Why is this happening?
And it's great because the way she tells lies and the way she's building everything for the other characters,
Just
right?
perfect.
It's when she breaks and she has that she again like she becomes the child. Yeah, there's a different, you can see the visual, how you can't pull that out of any regular actress. That's what I'm talking about, how it's very unworldly, her performance. It's very knowing. And yeah, that it doesn't seem fake at all. It doesn't seem, because even she's even upset at Baines, right? Because he's the one that made Alistair do this. Like, so she doesn't understand what's going on. It reminded me a lot too of like Days of Heaven, like Malik's film, how it's the little girl narrating.
Yes.
And what I love about that narration is she's so wrong about everything. Like we see what's happening and she misconstrues everything that she's seeing.
Because
And
this
so
is
I
the
love,
child brain. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
they don't know how to process it. So when
No,
she sees
no.
the two of them inside, oh, I'm going to go kiss a tree. That's the natural thing she's going to do next. But yeah, again, I just think this that it's so layered the way that cinematography ties in with performance, ties in with writing. It's just all of, yeah, it's all of a piece here, I think.
What do you think of Jane Campion's direction in general? Because she didn't win Best Director, but
Yeah.
she just made a masterpiece, I think, that will stand the test of time. So what do you think about the directing itself?
I've talked about it a little bit already, and we talked about it during our Fugitive episode where we were like, oh, did Tommy Lee Jones deserve the supporting actor? And the thing with awards is, yeah, I think Campion made a masterpiece here, but so did Steven Spielberg with Schindler's List. And it's a very personal film for him as well as a personal film for her. How do you award something like that? How do you pit these two movies against each other and say one is better than the other? You know what I mean? I don't think it's unfair that she didn't win the Oscar because Schindler's List is such a powerful directorial piece from Spielberg. I just think that again, award shows, that's what makes them so trivial because how do you pit them against each other when they're so powerful and they say so different? Her direction here, like I said, the way that, and our conversations that we've had about the Babadook, how Jennifer Kent in that has scenes and has shots that a male director would not even think about putting in there. There's a
No.
shot in the Babadook where she's in bed with her son and he's crowding her to the side of the bed, and I remember seeing that and watching the movie going, that's what it's like to be a parent. Like I've been in that position, but a man wouldn't
Yes.
think about that. And it's the same thing here with the way that Campion writes and directs the eroticism and the sex. It's not just about the wham bam, thank you, ma'am. It's about the build up to it. It's about
And even
piecing
the
it out.
mother-daughter relationship, the way they as if sometimes I feel like Flora was an extension of Ada. Like you could tell in the beginning, especially before Ada's relationship with Baines grew, you could tell they were inseparable. And she always had Ada on her lap, like sleeping, like next to her. And you could tell the way the bond between them. This is a female director, the way she understands this
Yeah.
maternal energy and this connection.
And it, again, I'm ashamed to say that a man would not have that stuff in here. And this is
Yeah.
why it's so important to have a female voice, because they're giving you these perspectives that a man wouldn't otherwise have. Again, everything that we've talked about, from the way that characters mirror each other, from the way that it looks very stormy, and the way that the shots are angled to mimic the characters inside, how they're feeling inside, the way that she has the Nyman score come in, the way that, again, the performances to decide to hold on Holly Hunter's face as she shows us the devastation of what's happened to her. The shot later too, when we touched on it, when Alistair almost gets to that point, and then he looks and sees her looking at him, and that's what stops him, whatever reason. And I think he goes to Baines and says, "Has she ever said anything to you?" And he says, "No." And so I think, in a way, Alistair's like, "Well, that's something I have on you, because I heard her say to me to let." So even that is a directorial choice, the way that they have that confrontation.
Yeah, it's just perfect.
Everything we've talked about has to do with that direction. This is a directed movie. And again, that's why I think the Academy Award and award shows are so pointless, because when I find out, oh, this didn't win Best Director, that's what why? And then Spielberg won for
Yeah,
Schindler's
because
List.
there was exactly.
Oh, oh, well, how do I can't they do a tie? It's hard. And I don't think an award should, even if Schindler's List didn't win those awards, it would still mean something to me. It would still mean something to Spielberg. This
Yeah,
movie didn't not winning Best Picture, Best Director, it still means
it's
something to
still a
her.
best picture in my heart.
Yeah,
S- Speaking of a female's perspective, we now travel to a very different world, an imaginary world, to Bad City.
yeah,
And a girl walks home alone at night. Amirpour, a completely different woman, a completely
yeah,
different directorial project, but something that is, I think, unique. And I don't think we have seen anything like that even ever since. And it was in what,
yeah.
2014?
Mhm.
Tell me about this movie. When did you first watch? You just watched it recently because you liked the poster, didn't know it was Amirpour. But what did you think when you watched it?
Well, it's funny, just a little bit of backstory is I thought today was the 19th. So I thought we were recording this episode tomorrow. And so yesterday I was like, oh, we're recording this episode tomorrow. I need to watch these. And so I watched both, which I don't do. I never do that. I never watch two movies in a row. So that's that's how much you mean to me, as I was willing to watch two movies in a row.
Oh, Darin.
But again, I vampire movies and war movies and romantic comedies, they hit like a point where you think you've seen everything, right? Like going back to Spielberg, you see
Totally
Saving
agree.
Private Ryan, and then you're like, I don't think you you can make another
You
World
can
War
top
II
that.
movie.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Or you do like Let the Right One In, right? Which is a masterpiece horror movie.
What a movie. Oh my God, I adore it.
Yeah, that's another one that's like, oh, look at this perspective. It's about mood, right? And so I always wanted to see this movie, not just again from the poster, but also it's a vampire movie, and all the buzz I'm hearing about is it's different from anything you've seen. I don't think that's quite true here, because, like I said, it's very Tumas Alfredson, Let the Right One In. It's very Jim Jarmusch. That's a word I hear. Ilya Kazan, Abbas Kiarostami. That's the name. I hope I pronounced that right. Or
Yeah, Best
Sergio
Kirsten.
Leone,
Hmm.
David Lynch, F.W. Murnau. I know that Amirpour had them watch Nosferatu for this. There's even a little bit of Robert Rodriguez when you have that little boy following everybody around. Which there's a little boy that follows the mariachi around, a desperado. So I thought that was very Robert Rodriguez-ish. But like I said, I don't think this is a completely you've never seen this before. But the way that it melds all those things and all those styles into this one movie made it feel very unique.
Yeah, but the way that she chooses, because most of the things that you mentioned, they were mainly the male perspective, the
Exactly.
guy's
Yeah.
perspective. But the way that she takes all of that, maybe she's stealing, like Jarmusch says, like I usually steal from here and here and here, or Tarantino, and
Yeah.
turns this into the tale of the girl walking home alone at night, kind of like following those
Mhm.
people around and becoming the predator rather than the prey. I think this is
Yeah.
something that is unique. And I have never seen it before done in a way that is not just visually or, like the visual style itself, but the idea of tuning this into the idea about let's flip the gender or let's
Yeah.
make the girl the one who is stalking all those people.
Right.
And for what
Well,
reason?
yeah, yeah. Again, I don't mean to throw shade at that. What I was basically what I got from this movie, it felt very 70s. It felt very 90s, where you have the movie brats like Scorsese and De Palma and Spielberg and Lucas and the Coppola, where they took all these movies that you've seen before and they made them into something new and
Unique
something
that
that
is
felt,
their own. Exactly.
yeah,
That's
that's
the
their own.
thing. That's the
And
style.
80s became about excess, and I don't think there was as much creativity or groundbreaking stuff in the 80s. The 90s came around with the independent stuff, and again you have people like Tarantino or Spike Jones, where again, or Jane Campion, where they're taking these things, well, maybe not Jane Campion because we just talked about the piano being completely original, right? But she's part of this filmmaking like wave that came out where all of a sudden you're taking all these movies that maybe you'd seen before, like Wuthering Heights or whatever, and you're building a new voice out of them, a new personal voice. So even though Tarantino is ripping off or homaging like 2 dozen filmmakers in a single movie, it's still a
A
Tarantino movie.
Tarantino movie. Exactly.
And
That's
so
the thing.
this movie, the brilliance of this movie is it takes all those directors and all those films, like I mentioned, and it makes it something completely
That is
unique.
only hers. Mm-hmm.
Right. Because again, it's a vampire movie, but it flips the script. Now it's from the perspective of the female, where usually in slasher movies and horror movies and torture porn movies, it's all about the female being decimated. And
And
I like that they
stalked.
flip it. Yeah, and
Even
stalked.
in
And
when you
it's,
see something like Halloween or any of the Jason Voorhees or any of
yeah,
the like Nightmare in Elm Street, usually even the final girls are still stalked till the end.
yeah,
Here, she is doing the stalking. And it's
right.
like no one is believing her. This is why people are like underestimating her. Like, why? You could tell even most of the characters in the beginning, like a girl is walking behind them. Who cares? Who cares about this girl walking, wearing her chador and just walking behind
Yeah.
people? But then the interaction happens, and I think this is where the magic lies.
Yeah. Make flipping it so that now it's the males that are being basically targeted. I like the part where she's stalking Hussein, right? And she's mimicking which is very eerie the way that it's shot.
Very
And so
eerie.
even though we've seen her, the way that she attacks the pimp at the beginning, and we know we get like a visceral thrill from that, right? Because we've seen how he treats what's the character's name? Addie, is that right? Is that the
Yes,
we see how he treats her. And so when
prostitute.
girl goes to see him, and basically, I love the phallic symbolism there where she bites his, because he's using his finger as a sexual tool, right?
Yes,
She bites it off and uses this phallic symbol and rubs it on his lips as she's killing him, right? I think that's symbolically, that's so great. After you've
there.
seen, I love that I'm forgetting the pimp's name, and maybe it's not a Saeed, but
Saeed, yes.
he's got
Hmm.
all these pictures of tigers and predators, and then he's also got like the prey, like deer, like deer heads, like all over his walls. And then the way that she becomes the he becomes the prey, right? And she becomes the predator. Great visual stuff there. But again, I when I was watching this, actually when I was watching the piano, I thought there's so many similarities between these two movies, because they're
Tell me
about
about them.
they're
Tell
about
me.
sad characters that are lost and don't know, feel like they don't have a place. It's all about ownership, right? I think the way that girl targets these people, and it's mostly men, and there's when
She
you
still
hear,
follows Ati and she
yeah,
and she kind of like this is why I loved it. But I feel like it would have been very cliche if it was only men. But it's
yeah,
like I love the aimlessness in this
yes,
character. Even the no background, like you don't know, wait, who turned her? Why? Why is she a vampire in this city that seems very corrupt and terrible and filled with terrible people?
yeah.
What is she doing here? What is her purpose? Who turned her? Was it a man or a woman? Like, what does she plan to do with her life? Is she enjoying it? Is she doing it for the thrill? Like, she doesn't seem like such a vigilante. You couldn't even tell what she's doing. Yes, her kills are specific and she's kind of like doing something that might tell you maybe she has had a violent encounter in the past or something, but
Uh-huh.
still it's ambiguous. And I feel like this is the beauty of it.
Well, again, you're starting the movie off from Arash's point of view, right? You're introduced to him. You don't get to know who girl is until later when Saeed does that in the car in the ripped off when he rips off the Thunderbird from him, right? So you it starts off from Arash's point of view. I think it's interesting that he's kind of modeled after James Dean, right? And then
I love this so much because I feel like, first of all, why bring this old
yeah.
school masculinity into a new film? But also because I feel like James Dean or Brando or these men of the 50s who were like the vulnerable
Yes.
masculinity of the 50s as opposed to the macho-ness. So you could tell that she sees Arash as this very soft guy or this fragile male.
Yeah.
Also, I think she was enamored, the director, by their aesthetics because he's a very handsome, cute guy, and the way his hair and the way he dresses, I think she just likes that. She just likes that look. So I love that for her, honestly. I love that
Right.
she adds it into the film.
This is a loaded movie that the more you think about it, the more it kind of blossoms. But again, he's modeled after James Dean, but Band is also modeled after Gene Seberg from like Breathless, right? So you have, I think, having the 50s aesthetic, it makes the movie feel timeless. It really does. Instead of having them wear dated 70s clothing or dated 90s
100%.
clothing, right?
Exactly.
But then you have Seberg with the striped shirt and the like the shorter hair or whatever, and that's the 60s where there was a freedom to 60s films, and I think that kind of brings it in here. But what I think is fascinating, like I said, it's kind of seen as a feminist movie, but it's not just about that. She targets people that are basically working as vampires toward other people, right? She attacks Saeed because he's obviously a cruel man. Like he's siphoning off of Arash's family. Like he took the car from them because he's supplying them drugs and they're not
He even
paying,
wanted
right?
to take the cat. Exactly. He's
Right.
terrible.
Hussein, he treats the hair like he's literally injecting him stuff with fangs in a way, right? Visually, right? So that's vampirism in a way. I think she follows Addie around and she follows Arash around. I think it's really cute how cute for a vampire movie, how he's dressed as Dracula. I think that's
And
really
she's the
funny.
real Drake. I love
Yeah.
this scene so much. Like he's like, haha, I'm not gonna hurt you. And the way, even what a brilliant actress. What is her name? Because she's just perfect. I love her so much.
Sheila Vand.
Yes, Sheila is just, I don't know. I just think it's a perfect choice, not just aesthetic wise, the way she plays her body. Like when she's dancing the creepy dance inside her apartment, you're like, oh, wait a minute, what are you happy for? But then maybe she's happy that she's released from morality in a way. Like she's happy
Yeah.
that she's turned into this vampire who can just kill people. But yet when she meets a Rash and they have this cute encounter, she couldn't go through with it because she sees, I feel like she sees, this is why when she was asking the kid, are you a good boy? Tell me, are you
Mm-hmm.
a good boy? She kind of sees people for their reality. This is why she sees Ati as this soulless, kind of like vacant shell of a woman. So she
Mm-hmm.
sees Arash as this good guy. In the beginning, she just wants to fight him and that's it. But she still
Mm-hmm.
has that moral, I think, underlying thing inside her, which also, again, I think adds layers to the film where it could have just been, like what is it called? The nun who kills everyone, like whatever 45. I just
Oh yeah.
remember her. Yeah, where it's just
Miss
boom, boom, boom.
45.
Exactly.
Right.
Let's kill everyone. So let's kill men. I just love the idea that it made her much, much deeper than you would have thought in a
Yeah.
vampire movie.
In a way, she sees Arash as lost and aimless as well, right? I know he steals the earrings, but that's the first one of the first things he says is when the kid says, "Hey, can I think he asks if he can drive, and he's like, "No, you can't drive. Once you work like the 2,191 days that I did, and you automatically you're like, oh, he's a good guy because he actually worked for a living, right?" And when you see Saeed take the Thunderbird from him, and he decides to steal the earrings from the party girl, right? Who also is like siphoning off of society, right? Like going to all these
Exactly.
parties. She's also a
Uh-huh.
vampire in a way, right?
Everyone is
So
terrible. This is why I'm
yeah.
telling you, this is why it's bad city. It's a corrupt city, like the comic
Mhm.
books.
So he does a bad thing by stealing the earrings, but it's out of desperation. So
That's the thing. He's very
it doesn't feel
desperate.
evil, right?
Yeah.
And he takes the ecstasy and he says, "I'm lost." And it's like, yeah, I mean, that's the way that I think he says the right things and dresses the right way and looks at her the right way at the perfect time because it disarms her, right? When she attacks Hussein later, again, I like the part where she's following him, like mimicking him like a cobra would do, right? That's how they stop
I
their
loved
victims.
it. I loved it so much. It's very Art the Clownish too. Like
Right, right.
she is just perfect in that scene.
Exactly. but I don't think she really targets Hussein until it gets to the point. Again, Hussein is this pathetic character who's a drug addict, and obviously he's
Exactly.
again
And a
he's
terrible
working as a
father.
vampire because he's siphoning off the money that Arash is making. But when he goes to Addie, and there you get a sense that, oh, this is going to be like a mirroring, like we talked about with piano, right? Like where you're going to see, oh, Arash and the girl are going to go off together because they have a bond and something, they recognize something in each other. And now Addie and Hussein are they're going to, because they're kind of screwed over by their situation. But then he does the thing where he tries to force the heroin on her, right? And I think
Exactly.
that's when the girl shows up at that moment. I think that's why she targets him. It's all about the control. When she sees that somebody has control, she wants to take that away. And that's a very masculine thing, having
That's
that
the
control.
thing. Exactly. So when she's doing it, she is becoming also a masculine kind of figure. And I just
Yeah,
love that because it's just, it gives her like depth that maybe you wouldn't easily see it, or maybe you would have been done in a way that is very farce. You know what I mean? But
right.
here it's done with such poignancy and depth.
And it, like, another similarity is that it's very visual. There's not a lot of dialogue
Yeah, I
in
love
here.
that so much.
And so she hardly says anything. It's all about the looks that she gives, but she says so much with her. Again, when they're dancing to, I think, Death by White Lies is the song that's playing in her place, but they're dancing really close, and she basically exposes her neck. And as a a movie watch, you're like, oh, I know where this is going, but instead it turns into an embrace because
Yeah,
there's a connection that they're making, right? So I don't know. I love, it's all, he's lost. He doesn't have control over everything. And so I think, again, that's why he doesn't target him and she
yeah,
doesn't target Addie because, like you said, they're aimless.
that's true. And I feel that also there's this thing about her, which I feel like this deep sadness, but also you could tell this movie was done by someone who was lonely. Like you could
Yeah.
tell because I read that Anna Lila Amirpour said, I made it when I was very lonely. I was feeling
Yeah.
very lonely. So you could tell watching a film, and I think this is a brilliance of the director. You could tell if this director is a pervert, is high, is crazy, is just in love with the actors. Like I watched this beautiful film directed, I think, by Francois Truffaut, the story of Adele H. And you could tell
Mm.
he was madly, deeply in love with Isabel Adjani. He just was worshiping her because every frame
Well, who wouldn't?
spoke. Exactly. Every frame just spoke of the way he was in love with her. And even though she was playing this woman desperate in love and just torn by love, you could tell that he mirrored himself on her. So here you
Yeah.
could tell the loneliness of everything, the loneliness of the girl's apartment, of the alleyways and the streets of Bat City, even inside that party which Arash goes to. He's still lonely, even amidst the crowd and people having fun and taking ecstasy. So you could tell, my God, this film was made by a very, very lonely woman who was trying to connect. And this is why she created the weird connections or the attempts of this lonely vampire to maybe find connection in a meaningless world.
Yeah. Exactly. Like when he's at the party, which you should not feel alone at a party with so much, but when I think he tries to kiss Shada is her name, and she's like, "No, Arash," and that makes him like, "Oh, I'm not important," right? I felt like because they came up to me, and I think it's Amirpour that's the girl in the skeleton, Amirpour, who I think that's her. But anyway, so he thinks that he's in charge, like he's in control, but he's not because she makes him take
No.
the ecstasy. She
Yeah.
won't let him kiss her. And so when he wanders, it's because he's lost. And it's so funny how there only seems to be, maybe, unless you're at that party, 5 people that exist in this whole city. Because the streets, there's houses, obviously, but it seems like they're abandoned. Like nobody's out.
That's because I think it's a town that is, it's a lost town. People are flooding, people are leaving. You could tell there are no jobs. You could tell there's a lot of lawlessness in it. You could tell
Yeah.
that poverty rate is, or I think there is like a very mismatched dynamic between the very poor and the very rich. So you could tell all of that without even having to explain or say anything. And it's a
Yeah.
testament to her just brilliance. I just loved her. And I love that this was, I think, her debut feature. So just
Yeah.
spectacular project.
I think she did short films like crazy.
Yes,
And
but that was like her feature, I think, feature debut, feature length.
yeah. And then
I think so. I'm not sure.
she did a like a I'm not sure of the name. Like she did a Kickstarter campaign where she raised
Yeah.
like 57,000. And then Elijah Woods production company got wind that she was trying to do this, and they liked the idea. So I guess they footed the rest of the bill to make this movie come out. And I think reading the interviews with her, she wanted to do a movie after this about cannibalism with
Yeah, she
Jennifer
did a
Lawrence.
terrible one called The Bad Batch, but didn't get Jennifer Lawrence, unfortunately.
Yeah,
I think she got like loser actor. Then she did one that was actually good, and I was on a podcast talking about it called Mona Lisa and the Blood Moon that had Kate
yeah, okay,
Hudson. And I love that Kate
right,
Hudson supported her in her third project.
right, because women got to stick together because nobody else will help them out, right?
Because let's see, because see, after that project, you could tell she was supposed to do a lot of great things, but nothing.
Yeah, just
It's
didn't
just
get the chance.
hard. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think she was even attached to the cliffhanger reboot, which is like, whoa, that's huge.
But I
But
think she's
then
going
nothing
to be the
happened.
exact the writer,
Yeah.
and then they brought in a new director, I think.
Yeah. So that's not happening. So she had a window there. But I think it goes back to the idea that, like Charles Lawton with The Night of the Hunter, it's like if you're going to make one movie and that's the only movie you're known for,
Make
then
the best.
bravo.
So we will always talk about The Girl Walks Home Alone. Besides, also, what a cool kick-ass title. Because when you think about it, a girl is
Yeah.
always being told, don't walk alone, don't stay out late, or when you're late, make sure that you return safely, don't walk alone. Because I remember this incident. I was like staying with friends, and we were like going out for late. And then instead of taking an Uber or Safe Ride, I was like, okay, this place is really close to my house. Let me walk it. And it
Uh,
was like walking through alleyways in this neighborhood. I knew it, but during morning, it was just a very safe, normal neighborhood. But at night, it wasn't really greatly lit, and there were many corners and alleyways where you could tell there was shadows and stuff. So when
right.
I was walking, I was like, fuck, this is terrible decision. What the hell did you do, Jay? Then I remembered the girl from the movie, and I was like, okay, I'm wearing the cloak. I'm the predator. I'm the bad guy. And that thought inside my head kept repeating it, kind of like what got me. Of course, I'm not saying that anyone should do this. No, 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 no. Stick to Ubers, guys, or cars. But seriously, it's the idea of her walking any city, anytime. Like imagine the city with the highest crime rate at night, and this girl is walking and just, like bullies or violent men kind of laughing off, oh my God, look at this person. And then she turns her fangs and she just eats everyone. It's just a comforting thought.
Yeah.
So
Well,
what a title.
I love the idea, like she wears the chador, right? Which is like in Iran, like you're forced to wear
You're
these things,
forced
and
to wear it, exactly,
yeah,
unfortunately, yes. And
stigmatized.
she's using it as Dracula's cloak. So she's
Yeah,
flipping that symbol of oppression into actually a symbol of making her the fear rather than
yeah,
fearing taking it off. So again,
exactly.
a brilliant
Visually.
idea.
Well, when you have the male will look at, like, again, Saeed looks at her, oh, she's in a chador, like she's very closed up, like I can take advantage
Exactly.
of this.
That's
And
the
she
thing.
does. That's a brilliant move. Like it disarms people. Like it doesn't, they don't feel like she's a threat until those fangs come out, right?
Yeah.
So I love that. It's kind of a comment on how the Iranian like woman that is closeted up and forced to do things, but it's great because Amirpour will say when you ask her, like, "Oh, that wasn't like I didn't mean to do that." The only political thing I have in here is rockabilly, right? The you see
Yes,
the
who's exactly. Because I think
because
it's a
you can't be gay in
transsexual
Iran.
character. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
This
of
is something the
course you
communists say.
can't. Yeah, definitely. So this was her statement. This was actually a
Yeah,
statement that she made. But I think the idea that the tests to the brilliance sometimes of filmmakers or creators in general is when they don't intend every single symbol that you elaborate. When you are
yes,
starting to see things that maybe they didn't intend initially, I mean, didn't intend initially, you realize, wow, I'm in front of someone who is not even aware that they're creating cultural moments or
yeah.
cultural impacts through their work. And
Because
that's the beauty
the,
of it.
the great things happen by accident, right? So yeah, that's one of the great things about art is it leaves it up to you. And I like that she has that attitude. When you see the oil refineries and like the pumping or whatever, the machines are basically framed like they're fangs, right? You see them come down and maybe
Yeah.
punctuate something, but a lot of critics were like, "Oh, this is a comment on like the oil exploitation out in Iran," which is cool. Like if that's what she meant, I just think it's a really cool visual. And again, you
Yeah.
ask her, and she's like, "Oh, it's just a cool visual that I
The
wanted in
curtains
there."
are blue. Exactly. Yeah.
But if you want to read that into the movie. It's there. And she can't, why would you take that away from somebody?
No,
Right.
exactly.
If you see
That's the
that, like,
thing.
yeah, great. Like that's, I love that you can see that art in what I'm doing here. Like, did I mean to do it? I don't know. But like it leaves it up to you. And I think that's, everybody's going to look at the Mona Lisa or Starry Night and see something completely different than the
Different
other
than the
person.
other. So exactly.
So that's a
Exactly.
great thing about art. And yeah. So
Okay. Now coming to our final culmination or conclusion of both films. Who would you recommend these two films to, especially in this climate, this environment of film Twitter? Would you recommend it to younger generations, both of them, or one of them only? And what category would you pick if you had a film class? Would you
uh-huh.
make them like required watches for your students?
Yes. I think it's like we talked
Thank you.
about the way that these movies, these two movies mirror each other. This isn't this isn't the only like female films that you should show, right? You got stuff like
No.
Gene Dillman or Harlan County, USA, or The Adventures of Prince Ahmed, which I love, or
Yes.
Eve's Bayou, Lost in Translation, The Matrix, for crying out loud, Cleo from 5 to 7. There are all these
Bound.
great
Yes.
films made by women, and it's so sad because you look at these movies and they have maybe 5 great movies to their name at
That's the
that, because
thing.
their filmographies are not as widespread as a lot of the males do. The one thing that I really want to mention here, and it was after researching A Girl Who Walks Alone, I looked up some interviews and things like that. And I found it interesting. There's a article called "The Celluloid Ceiling" by Dr. Martha M. Lozen from the Center for the Study of Women in Television and Film. I think that's at San Diego State University. She did a study in 2013. Women accounted for 13% of directors working on the top 250 films. Of those films, only 10% worked on the top 100. We're talking about directors, writers, producers, executive producers, editors, directors of photography. In 2025, women made up 23% of that. So we've only gone up 10%
Oh my God.
in the last 12 years. And why? Like, why? That's
I'm worried.
crazy.
I'm worried about Coralie Farjah and Helena Rain now. You never know when they're gonna make their next film. Like, are they going to make their next film? This is why. Why should it take a woman like 10 years to make a next film? Like Chloe Zhao, remember, she made Nomadland, and then she had to wait all the way until Hamnet. So
Uh-huh.
why does it take? I think she made something superhero or Marvel or
Eternals in
whatever.
there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But to make her something that felt like her, that sounded like her, it took her a very long time.
And it's weird because even Eternals was attacked because, oh, this is a woman trying to do a superhero movie.
Oh my
Haha, look at how weird
God,
this
how
is.
stupid. Oh, I can't with
Yeah.
these
So
people.
again, shades of Birds of Prey. It's like, why can't women walk
Why
in
can't we
here
make
and
more
make,
movies like Birds of Prey? Now they're making a I think I read it. I hope it's not a rumor that they're making a Harley Quinn movie with Sydney Sweeney, which will be definitely directed by a man for
yeah,
the male gaze.
yeah,
When actually Harley Quinn in Birds of Prey was the coolest, most kick-ass, but also sexy in her own quirky way. You know, not in a
yeah.
hyper-sexualized, only catering to the male gaze. So I don't know. It just feels very sad the way things are turning.
Because again, dudes will look at the way these movies are made and go, this isn't made for me, which makes it a bad movie. And I think
Yeah,
that's so stupid. Like, why close yourself off from that? Like, your
exactly.
perspective is very limited. Why would you keep to that perspective when there's female directors, there's black directors, there's Armenian directors, there's Chinese directors out there that have something to
And
say,
queer directors.
queer
Every
directors?
point of view matters because it creates the diversity and it creates the cinema that we love. When we
Yeah,
have
it's
like 10 movies and they're all different and containing
all
different people.
encompassing. Yeah,
Yes.
like it just sucks that people are closed off from that. So again, going back to teaching a class, I would definitely show these two movies as like in a single week and say, how are these movies connected? Like, what are they saying? And to recommend, it's hard because we talked about the piano. You can't recommend something that has a scene where he's like, I'll trade you 5 black keys for you to lift up your skirt, right?
That's
Film Twitter
difficult.
today would go nuts.
Just
And
recommend it to crazy cinephiles
I
who are like
guess,
older than 30 or something.
but
Yes.
if I guess I'd recommend it to people and you know who you are, where it's like, if you feel like you're closed off from the rest of the world, if you feel like your
Mm.
voice isn't being heard and
Yeah.
you want to see somebody that does have their voice getting, someone like you, I would make that a part of my class, different perspectives to be out there. But if you want to see what a voice sounds like, watch these two movies and you'll
Watch
see that
these
they
two
have
movies.
a take on, like I said, Victorian romance or a vampire movie, and it's going to give you a different perspective, a female perspective. That means something. You just have to open yourself up to it and walk in these characters. Why is that so hard? It's the same thing as walking in like Iron Man's shoes for 2 hours. Why is it different with Harley Quinn's shoes? I don't
Exactly.
understand.
I don't understand as well. I don't understand as well. Darin, what is next for Darin and the podcasts?
Well, we're still back to Bluey. We just started our fourth season, and it's like we talked about, kind of mentioned here, in this world of like so much cynicism and hopelessness. Like talking with Rob every week about this cartoon about anthropomorphic dogs, talking about parenthood and childhood and learning stuff about each other, just being lifted up during a conversation from these 7-minute cartoons. We're continuing that with Back to Bluey this season. It's something we can't move away from. We're going to have different kind of styles, different kind of storytelling that we're going to be covering. With NostalgiaCast, we're in the middle. Like you were just part of our 90s bucket list season. That was 93, and we're just barely started 97. So we've had Gross Point and Blank out and Robert Zemeckis' Contact out, and then next we'll be doing Good Will Hunting.
Wow.
But yeah, we mentioned 70s movies and 90s movies. It's just so refreshing to go back and watch a decade of movies where there was a voice and there was different ways of storytelling and opening up to different ways of how movies are made and how, like I said, stories are told. And so I love diving back into these 90s movies that mean so much to us, and why a girl walking home alone at night meant so much, because like, oh, this feels like a 90s movie. The one thing I
Very.
forgot to mention about the movie is that I miss movies, Jay, that have shots that last for longer than half a
Me
second.
too. Thank you very much. Where it doesn't have to have a purpose. Now it feels like people just want a purpose. A scene is not supposed to feel a
Yeah.
purpose for you. Can't you just admire something? People walking, her skateboarding, the walk
Right.
behind. Thank you.
Yeah. Long shots where you see Van and Mirandy in the same shot together and you see them reacting to each other. And it's not just a close up every 2 seconds whenever they say something, because they don't really talk. You don't really have a choice. You can't cut to them. So you show them in these long. It's very, very strange watching a movie like that when you see so many quick cuts today and you see a movie like this that has these minute long shots or 30-second long shots, and it creates this like hypnotic feel, but it's
It's a
not doing
trance.
anything different than what
Yes.
movies have done in the past. It's just that we're so used to seeing these quick cuts, like zooms and boring over the shoulders and things like that. And now it's like bringing you back to when visually a movie could tell you a story. And again, going back to 90s movies, that's what we're experiencing, where we watch these stories being told and like, wow, how come movies aren't being told like this? How come acting isn't like this? Or how come special effects aren't like this? It's fascinating going back and again opening yourself up to all these different ways of storytelling.
Darren, it was a delight dissecting these two films with you and having this interesting conversation. Thank you for being my guest. I just had a blast.
Thank you for existing, because I don't know, I'm sure there are podcasts out there where I could have had conversations like this, but the fact that you had these on your list and it was like, yes, let's talk about these and dive in. I think I messaged you saying, let's get as frank as we can. Like we can't just pussyfoot around this stuff and be
No, we
like
can
PG
sugarcoat
rated.
shit. No, no, no.
Yeah, we
Boring.
can't do
Yeah,
that. So
exactly.
I love that you exist out here and that you are leading these conversations and that you have articles out there that dive into these personal things. So I appreciate you existing and appreciate that I can be a part of this. You invited me to do this and talk with you. I love it.
Thank you. Thank you, Darren. This was a pleasure. Can't wait for more conversations on the J Days and also on the Nostalgia podcast. Stay tuned.